what it looks like using the floor jack to lift up on the big steel centerpiece of the front subframe. I got a backup jack stand right here under that rear part of the front subframe. And then I got my one jack stand with the aluminum block and the piece of wood so it doesn't dig into the driveway. And same thing, well, not quite same thing on the other side, because I haven't finished machining the second aluminum block, but better get this job going before it gets too cold, because we're already late October. So I got that on 2 pieces of wood there, and it's grabbed on the, it's like 4 pieces of the pinch weld metal all pushed together. So I'll go with that for now until I get the other aluminum block machine. But we'll go ahead, we'll cut the subframe out, then we can drain the oil, drop the oil pan, see what's going with that O-ring for the oil pickup tube. All right, we're on the next step with the Camaro. Oh, let me show you this first. I cut out the cross member with a 6-inch cutoff wheel. You can see it right here under the lathe. And the 6-inch cutting wheels are good compared to the 4-inch one, because they can really get through the cross member part and then in through to the top area. Whereas the 4-inch, you might not be able to get all the way through it. Now, we're working on dropping the oil pan. So we drain the oil first. And on the 2011 Camaro SS, we got an oil cooler. So what I did is I loosened, there's 4 bolts that hold the oil cooler to the oil pan. And then there's 4 bolts that hold the cooler to the, I guess the other half of the cooler that has the cooler lines going into it. So make sure you take off the 4 bolts that go into the casted holes of the oil pan. And then there's two bolts. It's super tight under here, so give me just a sec. We got 2 bolts up top there with the oil cooler bolts of the oil pan, so I just took those 2 loose, and then just draining the oil out into a little container here. So once all this comes loose, then I can get to all these oil pan bolts on this side. You can see a couple there, and then around the back, and then on the passenger side. But yeah, that's the frame cut out. I got lucky because this side, on the driver's side, I cut out. I got clearance to access this bolt easily, and then the oil pan bolts up in there. And what else to tell you? Yeah, we're just taking it step by step, and thankfully they have a little access on the frame here so you can reach through with your socket and your ratchet. But it is fairly tight under here, so I can't show you as much as I would like. And then there's going to be some bolts in the front that we'll have to address. Get some more cooler lines and the steering rack in the way. But all in all, making good progress. I did find a starter bolt loose here. I don't know why that was loose, so I took it all the way out. And the threads look good, thankfully, so I just put it back in and tighten it up. And I've just been numbering the bolts because some could be longer than others for the oil pan. So there's a little tip there. And then of course you got 2 bolts from the transmission that bolt to the back of the oil pan, so don't forget about those if you're doing this job. And yeah, I'll show you an update when we get the pan off. Okay, many hours later, the oil pan is out. All I had to do was take off the bottom nut of the passenger side motor mount. And I have a 18mm socket with the nut. Well, the nut is mostly backed off. And I just used the floor jack to lift the motor up just enough so I could clear the front of the oil pan above the steering rack and below the oil pickup tube. And there is the oil pickup tube. You can see the 1 bolt. We'll take that out, and you can see, can you see that on camera? The threaded hole that they left us, and we have the bracket and second bolt ready to go. Oh, you can kind of see it right in there. Got the oil pan back here. We'll get the new gasket. And finally, this job is reaching a stopping point. So I'm gonna go ahead, drop the pickup tube, since now it's easy to access that bolt, put the new O-ring in, bracket and bolt, and then put the oil pan up temporarily. So I'm super glad this worked out. I was able to lift the road up just enough through the subframe, because I didn't have any other options. I don't have a cherry picker or an engine hoist to go from the top to lift the motor up. So this worked out. Thanks for watching. And how do I get myself into these things? We got the oil pickup tube on the bench here. You can see some old residue of the old red pickup tube O-ring. It's got wear on the outside and the inside. And my kit came with a black and a green, so to determine which one, you look at the fit here, just past the flange that goes up into the oil pump, and as you can see, I have the tapered fit, so it's thinner here and then thicker out towards the end. And I measured with the caliper, so the thinner section is about 840 thousandths of an inch. The thicker section, it's actually more like 880 thousandths of an inch. So don't be alarmed. The instructions call for about 870 thousandths of an inch. It's close enough. So in my case, I have the O-ring groove in. Or no, I have the tapered end, but either way, it's the green one. If you had the straight end, you would use a black O-ring. So I'll lubricate up the green one, put it on, and then here's the bracket, and that, don't lose the bolts here, is simply going to make the other side of the flange just like that. And I will put 2 bolts in, and then hopefully we never have to worry about this ever again on the Camaro. So I'll get that done for tonight. Oil pan gasket's still in the way, so I'll just put the oil pan back up into place for now with a couple screws. And this was many hours, so I'm glad that I'm just about done for tonight. Thanks for watching. Okay, Camaro enthusiasts, it's been a bit of a wait, but we got the oil pan gasket, we got the oil cooler gasket. We're all ready to put this thing back in. Now for the 4 corners of our gasket surface, I think we should still have some good oil resistant RTV to put on, so we'll do that. And gosh darn it, this thing, I got the fresh oil sitting over there. No step-by-step process on this one. I probably should have, but I just wanted to get the thing apart. And I was able to lift up the engine just enough by putting this plate on the jack, and then this guy here. And then when I loosened the passenger side engine mount, the bottom bolt, or the bottom nut on the bottom of the subframe, I was able to use those metal pieces and push up just enough to get the oil pan to drop below the oil pickup tube and get the pan out. So I'm going to do that once more. Gasket, RTV, put the oil pan in, put all the bolts in place, tighten it down, middle out sequence. Then I can just put everything back together that attaches to the oil pan. Got some sensors. I got the oil cooler, and then the harness or the bracket that goes around the positive battery cable around the front, and then a couple other odds and ends down here. So I'm just gonna get to work on that. It's Halloween, so we gotta get cranking before we gotta hand out candy later on tonight. So I'll see you guys back in a little while.